You can't just lock us out. Open this gate right now!
Who told your board this land belonged to the HOA?
By 6:12 that morning, the first SUV was already trapped behind the gate. At 6:14, the HOA president started screaming into her phone. At 6:19, 3 guests in linen shirts and summer hats were standing in the middle of my private driveway, staring at the fresh white letters her board had painted there 2 days earlier. At 6:27, the sheriff stepped out, looked at the sign, looked at the survey stakes, then asked one question that changed the entire morning. Who told your board this land belonged to the HOA? Nobody answered. And that was the moment they finally understood something I had known for 93 days. They had not just used my driveway. They had built their whole convenience around the one strip of land they never legally controlled. My name is Daniel Mercer, and the HOA president's biggest mistake wasn't painting parking lines on my property. It was assuming I'd react too early. My mother bought our house in Brook Hollow Ridge in 2004, back when the subdivision was still half dirt lots, half promises. The house sat on a corner parcel with a long concrete side driveway that ran along a cedar fence and ended beside an old detached garage. What made the property unusual wasn't the house. It was the strip of access running beside it. On paper, it was only 18 feet wide. In practice, it connected the overflow gravel shoulder near the clubhouse to the back service lane used by contractors, caterers, and event traffic whenever the HOA wanted to keep the front circle looking pretty. My mother never gave them an easement, never signed a shared access agreement, never sold a strip. She just let people pass now and then because she was too decent to fight with neighbors over convenience. That stopped mattering after she died. I moved back in late April to renovate the house, clear probate paperwork, and decide whether I wanted to keep it. The first week, everything felt normal. Second week, I noticed tire marks cutting across the side edge of the driveway. Third week, I found a white crossover parked halfway onto my concrete, under a laminated sign zip-tied to my fence. No HOA notice. No knock on the door. No permission. Just a sign. I pulled it down, laid it in the garage, and figured that would end it. It didn't. That Friday, there was a realtor mixer at the clubhouse. At 5:40 p.m., I came back with paint samples and found 7 cars lined along my driveway and shoulder like it had always belonged to them. One was blocking my garage. 2 had tires pressed into the flower bed my mother planted herself. And someone, I still remember how insane this looked, had actually painted fresh white parking brackets on the concrete near the cedar fence. Like they were formalizing the theft. I took pictures before saying a word. Wide shots, close shots, tire tracks, license plates, paint lines, fence sign holes, even the little overspray freckles on the concrete where the stencil had shifted. At 5:53, I called the HOA number posted on the clubhouse board. At 6:01, President Vanessa Cole called me back. Her tone was the kind people use when they're used to winning before the conversation starts. Daniel, that side strip has been treated as event overflow for years. It's my driveway. It serves the community. No, I said. It serves people who don't want to walk 20 extra yards. She let out this little laugh, dry and insulting. Your mother never had a problem with it. My mother also never gave you ownership. Then she said the sentence that told me exactly who I was dealing with. Our property committee reviewed that boundary issue already. Boundary issue. Not mistake. Not misunderstanding. Issue. Meaning they knew. Meaning they had talked about it. Meaning someone had already decided they could get away with it. Dismissal/humiliation 5:01 to 7:15. The next Monday, I attended the board meeting. Vanessa sat at the front in a red blazer with a legal pad, a stainless tumbler, and the expression of someone auditioning to rule a small country. I brought a folder. Closing file copy. Tax records. Subdivision plat. My mother's old survey sketch. Before I finished my second sentence, Vanessa cut me off. That access edge has functioned as community support space for over a decade. It has functioned, I said, because my mother was polite. A couple people laughed. Vanessa didn't. Then the treasurer, a man named Mitch Reardon who looked like he ironed his golf polos, leaned into his microphone and said, "If you want to challenge established use, do it formally." That phrase mattered. Established use. They were trying to dress trespass up like precedent. I asked for the document granting access. Nobody produced one. I asked for the easement. Nobody produced one. I asked who authorized parking paint on my concrete. Vanessa said. Facilities acted in good faith based on HOA necessity. I still remember the room going quiet after that. Not because they were shocked. Because even the people sitting there knew she'd just admitted the board acted first and checked later. Then she looked straight at me and said, "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." That line usually works on people who want peace more than clarity. Unfortunately for her, I had just finished probate. I was in no mood to donate land for free. I didn't hire a lawyer first. I hired a surveyor. Best decision I made. 2 mornings later, a county-certified survey crew spent 6 hours re-establishing the corners, checking the plat book, and matching the driveway edge against the recorded subdivision map. At 4:18 p.m., the surveyor, Paula Hensley, handed me a preliminary overlay and said, "Daniel, not only is this your driveway, the HOA's overflow routing signs direct traffic across your deeded strip by about 14 feet. 14 feet. That was enough." Then she said something even better. Their new paint marks crossed the property line in 3 separate places. I asked if she'd put it in writing. She smiled. "I already am." That night, I pulled every camera I had out of storage and installed 4. 1 over the garage, 1 on the side fence, 1 on the oak tree facing the shoulder, 1 wide-angle camera covering the full driveway entrance. Each stamped date and time. By Thursday, I had footage of HOA event volunteers placing cones on my property, a landscaping cart cutting across the driveway, and 1 maintenance guy repainting the white brackets at 7:11 a.m. with a stencil that literally said visitor. I sent Vanessa a formal notice. Certified mail, email, and hand-delivered copy. It included 5 things. 1. Cease using my property. 2. Remove all HOA signage, cones, and markings. 3. Preserve all internal communication related to the property committee's review. 4. Confirm no easement existed. 5. Respond within 7 calendar days. She responded in 36 hours through the HOA attorney. That was when this got interesting. Their lawyer did not deny the land was mine. He avoided it. Instead, he said the HOA had relied on historical permissive use and community maintenance expectations. That's lawyer language for, "We know this looks bad, but maybe we can pressure you into accepting it." Then came the second mistake. 3 days after receiving my notice, the HOA posted a summer open house flyer for Brook Hollow Ridge. Caterers, property tour, pool deck breakfast, vendor tents. Expected attendance, 180 to 220. And the map attached to the flyer showed guest parking arrows feeding directly through my side driveway. My property, my concrete, my garage approach, my fence line. They had formalized the trespass after legal notice. That single flyer probably won me the tone of the whole fight. Because now it wasn't old neighbor habit. It was intentional event planning. I sent the flyer to Paula the surveyor, then to a property attorney named Ellen Voss. Ellen read the file in one afternoon and called me at 8:42 p.m. Her first sentence was, "Don't stop them yet." I laughed. That's exactly what I was about to do. "Good," she said. "Don't." Then she explained why. If we moved too early, they'd claim confusion and quietly back off. If we waited, documented, and let them commit to the event after written notice, the issue became cleaner. Deliberate use. Recorded warning. Public reliance on unauthorized land. Potential liability. Possible false representation to residents and vendors. She told me to give them one last chance. We sent a second letter. Shorter. Sharper. It included the survey excerpt, still photos, timestamps, and a deadline. Remove every marking and reroute event traffic by 5 p.m. on June 14th. They ignored it. So Ellen filed the notice that mattered. A recorded revocation of permissive access. Effective in 93 days. Which happened to land exactly 3 mornings before the HOA summer open house. Vanessa still didn't stop. The closer we got to the event, the more arrogant they became. I started getting friendly visits. One board member told me I was hurting property values. Another said my mother would be ashamed. Someone posted anonymously in the neighborhood Facebook group that I was trying to extort the HOA for money. Vanessa herself wrote that certain residents were weaponizing technical lot lines against community life. Technical lot lines. That phrase still makes me laugh. Like deeds are a hobby. Like recorded boundaries are just emotional suggestions. Meanwhile, my cameras kept working. On August 28th at 6:58 a.m., Two facilities workers measured my driveway with a wheel and placed temporary chalk marks where the next row of guest parking would go. On August 31st at 4:12 p.m., a vendor truck delivered folding signs reading. 3 of those arrows pointed straight across my parcel. September 2nd, the caterer sent a parking layout PDF to all volunteers. Ellen subpoenaed it later. Their own file named my driveway Side Access Lane B. Not Mercer Driveway. Not private parcel. Lane B. They had erased ownership in their internal language long before they painted the concrete. That's why Ellen told me to stay calm. People like Vanessa don't lose when you shout. They lose when you let them write the proof themselves. The revocation became effective at 6 a.m. on September 5th. At 5:10, my contractor finished installing the gate. Matte black steel, 11 feet wide, 3 heavy hinges, reflective red tabs at the edges, fresh chain, 2 commercial padlocks. Paula's final survey stakes were visible on both sides in orange caps. At 5:43, Ellen texted me one line. You are fully inside your rights. Record everything. At 5:58, I locked the first padlock. At 6 o'clock, I locked the second. At 6:05, the first event volunteer arrived and just sat there staring. At 6:12, the first SUV pulled up behind them. At 6:14, Vanessa called. What is this? A boundary. You can't block community access. I can block my driveway. You're interfering with a scheduled HOA function. You scheduled it through land you don't own. Then she made the worst decision of the morning. She said, I'm calling the sheriff. I said, please do. Sheriff Nolan Pierce arrived at 6:27. Not angry, not rushed, just tired in the calm way experienced county officers get when they already suspect someone has wasted their morning. He looked at the gate. He looked at the cars. He looked at the white visitor parking letters still visible under the fresh morning light. Then he asked me for documents. I handed him the deed copy, the final survey, the recorded revocation, both attorney notices, the event flyer, and a small binder of time-stamped photos. He spent 7 minutes reading. Then he turned to Vanessa and asked the question that cracked the scene open. Who told your board this land belonged to the HOA? Vanessa started talking about long-term use, neighborhood practice, and maintenance. He cut her off. I didn't ask how long you used it. I asked who told you it was yours. Mitch tried to jump in with community necessity. The sheriff ignored him completely. Then Paula, the surveyor, who had arrived exactly when Ellen said she should, walked up carrying the marked plat overlay in a tube. She rolled it out on the hood of the sheriff's SUV. Orange highlight, my parcel. Blue hatch, HOA common area. Red cross marks, unauthorized paint and event routing. Everyone went silent. A woman in a floral dress whispered, wait, we've been parking on his driveway this whole time? The caterer started moving cones before anybody even answered. Sheriff Pierce told Vanessa 3 things. 1. The gate stays. 2. Nobody enters without my permission. 3. If the HOA or its vendors remove stakes, signage, or barriers, he'll treat it as intentional property interference after notice. Then Ellen arrived. Because of course she did. She handed Vanessa the filed complaint in person. Trespass, property damage, declaratory relief, injunctive relief, costs, and preservation demand for every email, maintenance order, event map, and committee note related to my parcel. Vanessa didn't read all of it. She only got halfway down the first page before her face changed. That's how you know the story has turned. Not when people shout, when they start reading. The event didn't fully collapse. It shrank. Guests parked outside the subdivision and walked in irritated. Vendors rerouted through the front circle. The breakfast started late. The realtor tour lost half its schedule. And by noon, the Facebook group had already split into 2 camps. People furious at me for timing this. And people furious at Vanessa for lying. Ellen's discovery requests did the rest. Within 3 weeks, we got the emails. The property committee had known the land line was unresolved for at least 19 months. Vanessa wrote in one message, Daniel's mother never challenged overflow use. So if we formalize it now, he'll have a harder time rolling it back. Mitch replied, paint first, paperwork later. That sentence alone was worth the wait. By October, the HOA insurance carrier was involved. By November, Vanessa resigned. By December, the board entered settlement talks. The final terms were simple. The HOA paid to grind off every parking marking, restore the edge bed, replace damaged fence panels, and cover legal fees. They issued a formal written acknowledgement that my parcel was private property with no HOA access rights. They mailed correction notices to residents and vendors, and they recorded a non-use acknowledgement so nobody could pretend confusion later. I kept the gate, not because I needed it every day, because some lessons should stay visible. Last month, I repainted the garage, rebuilt my mother's flower bed, and removed the last of the temporary stakes. The concrete still catches afternoon light the same way it did when I was a kid. Only now, nobody parks on it. Nobody paints on it. Nobody calls it Lane B. It's just what it always was. My family's driveway. And if I learned anything from Vanessa Cole, it's this. People will absolutely build a whole system around your silence. So if the land is yours, the paperwork is clean, and the line is real, don't argue forever. Mark it. Record it. Let them overstep. Then close the gate.